Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment at the desk, and I ask unanimous consent that the amendment be considered as read.
Objection so ordered. Recognized for you to explain your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks again to Representative Cohen for working with me on this amendment. Here we are again, several hours later, talking about the seat configuration on airlines today. And my amendment would address this safety issue by requiring the airlines to conduct evacuation tests on these planes that have the smaller seat pitch. Over time, these seat pitches, the distance between the rows, including your leg room, have shrunk from 35 inches to as low as 28 inches. So the FAA is responsible for making sure that evacuation tests are conducted for planes. Passengers must be able to escape in 90 seconds from realistic scenarios, and with more crowded planes, more baggage in the cabins, the space between the rows, I believe, is a crucial factor when evacuating from a plane. However, and this is why I'm introducing this amendment, the FAA has not conducted emergency evacuation tests for airplanes with seat pitches under 31 inches. The FAA researcher Cynthia Corbett testified at an FAA public hearing, "We just haven't considered other pitches, and so reduced seat pitches could hinder passengers' ability to evacuate in emergency." My amendment would direct the FAA to conduct emergency evacuation tests for airplanes with seat pitches of 28 inches. We didn't pass the amendment earlier, a long time ago, that said you wanted to mandate the size of the seat and the width and the pitch. But I would think at least you would consider supporting this one that would require the FAA to begin testing for evacuation procedures on these planes with the shorter seat pitch. Now, the underlying bill says the administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration shall review evacuation certification and report back to Congress in a year. I think a year is a long time for all of us traveling on these planes, along with the American public, in these smaller seat rows, to not have had at least the comfort of knowing that they can be evacuated. So whatever you feel about it, we don't know whether they're safe or not. We don't know if these smaller row sizes are going to allow for the 90-second evacuation. So all I'm saying is I think no matter how you feel about the size of the seats, why don't we at least require them to now test the evacuation procedure with the smaller pitch sizes, which they have not done up to this point. Thank you. I yield back. Seems reasonable.
Anybody wish to be heard on this amendment? Seeing none, I appreciate the gentlelady offering the amendment. However, I oppose it. Again, we had this discussion, I believe, on Mr. Cohen's amendment. It wasn't several hours ago. It feels like several hours ago. But again, this bill currently requires working with the ranking member, and again, it was ranking member's language, requires the FAA to review the evacuation certifications and standards for passengers, aircraft, and report to Congress on their findings. If the gentlelady would be willing to withdraw the amendment, I commit we'll continue working on addressing the exiting evacuation strategy or the evacuation study in this legislation. So again, it's in the legislation. I think we have an agreement on doing this forward. So we'd ask the gentlelady to.
I appreciate that. I just think the underlying bill, I see where it says it's asking the FAA to review, but if they haven't done the actual evacuation test on this, that's what I would like them to review, on whether or not it was possible to evacuate in 90 seconds with these shorter, smaller rows. So with all due respect, I really think this is something that I think the flying public would appreciate us asking FAA to do. And the fact that they haven't, because they didn't even think that they needed to with these smaller pitches, I think is a huge oversight and puts the public safety at great risk.
I appreciate the great gentlelady's passion for this. Again, I would have to oppose. So with that, any members wish to be heard? Seeing none, any amendments to the amendment? Seeing none, I ask all those in favor of Ms. Hahn's amendment number 59, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
According to the chair, the noes have it. Lady.